Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Monday to you. Of course, that's the finest day of the week to do anything, isn't it? But nevertheless, thank you for tuning in. Now, first things first, these always begin the same way. We do a quick sound test. I ask you if you can hear me loud and clear, and at least some of you will tell me that you can't. Just to be funny. So, I guess either answer will do. Does everything, can you hear the sound of my voice? Somebody can hear a mouse clicking. Yep, that was just to begin the stream. Hello, everybody. What's up? Hi, Shalom from Israel. Hi, Dr. Nick. Hey, Seth here. And I sound perfect. Aw, who said that? Bakant. I don't think I can pronounce that, but thank you. Loud and clear. Well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you. Now, to get this underway, you can tell, obviously, from the title of this stream, that, and from the description, that there's going to be a new video premiering, to put that in air quotes, premiering today on this stream, followed by a discussion afterwards. And the title of this video is a question. The question is, what do guns and swimming pools have in common? Now, it's not ordinary for this channel to publish a video with a slightly confusing title, but I couldn't help it. This was just a fun idea that I've had for a while now, and I just thought that if it's good enough for most other people on YouTube, it's good enough for this channel. Now, what we're going to do now, for those of you who have already tuned in, for those of you who are waiting before the stream started, and for those of you who've just tuned in the last few minutes, we're going to wait for probably a few more minutes just to let other people tune in, because most of the time, most of the people who tune into live streams on YouTube, they don't show up, they're not waiting before it starts, and they don't show up immediately after it starts. So we'll just give them a few minutes. Right now, there's about 330 people, 334 people tuned in. And normally there's a few more than that. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes. And while we're waiting, in just a few minutes, we'll start playing the video. That's the first thing we're going to do. Make that the second thing we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is kill a little time waiting for people to tune in. While we're waiting for people to tune in, do you guys have any quick comments or questions that you'd like to make clear? I'm looking right at the chat as we speak. Arthur made it. Eugene says good and bad sides, an attempt to answer the question. That's right. It's fun to give both to children. Who said that? Gene. Very funny. Hey, what's up? Somebody with a very long name that contains the word spaghetti said, what's up? Not much. This, mostly. Hey, King Wilson. King Wilson has arrived. King Wilson says, I have arrived. YouTube decided to pig me this time. I think he meant to say ping. King Wilson. Unless you'd like to go by King Wilson. Either way, glad you're here. Everybody say hi to King Wilson, King of the Plebs. Anyone who's tuned into streams on this channel in the past will get that joke. It's an inside joke. Somebody will explain what that is and what it means. And Vsauce Puppet says, hello, thank you for being my favorite channel. Well, Vsauce Puppet, if that is your real name, thank you for joining the channel. For those who don't know, Vsauce Puppet became a member of this channel just earlier today before the stream started. And I'm certainly grateful, but let's hear it from all the rest of you guys. Everybody give Vsauce a pat on the back, a thumbs up, a hey, how you doing, whatever you will. Thanks for joining the channel again, Vsauce Puppet, and thank you, King Wilson, for showing up. King Wilson has missed the last few of these, so it's good that he's here. All right, now we've got nearly 400 people tuned in. We'll get this started soon. Another minute or two should do. Crusader Man says hello. I say hello. Let's see here. James Oldigs says, I have arrived. Yes, you have, James. Welcome. Cameron Carlton, thank you for stopping by. Good to see you. Vsauce Puppet said, heck yes, I did. Hey, here's a question from, like I said, we'll take a couple of questions, chit-chat for a bit, kill some time, wait for people to tune into this live stream, because not everybody shows up on time, and that's fine. Here's a quick question here from Michael, who asks, are you ready for the clapping of alien cheeks? Michael, I don't know if that question was worth what you paid. In fact, I'm sure it isn't, because I don't have an answer. I don't know what you're referring to. My best guess is one of the latest memes. I'll admit, even though my job requires me to be online on YouTube, I can't keep up to speed with all of every single meme that comes down the pike. And again, I'm just assuming that that's what this is. Well, Michael, thank you for the question all the same. Are you ready for the clapping of alien cheeks? I guess I'd better be if that's what's coming my way. Oh, here's a question from Trey Saber, who says, "Hey, Vsauce Puppet here." Counter Arguments is a channel on YouTube that does counter arguments, or does it? Ding! Insert music here. Okay, guys. Well, there's about 440 people here. Maybe we'll be able to get up to 500. Sometimes we get as many as 600. But for those of you who have already tuned in, you've been waiting long enough. Decided to kill some time waiting for people to tune in, but now I think it's good a time as any to get started. Area 51, I know. There's some meme about Area 51 that I'm not aware of, and you guys can tell me, and I don't have to read about it. Okay, well, for those of you who tuned in, you're going to get a look at the latest video on this channel. Before new videos are published, they are streamed first, just like this, so that so that there can be not just because it's exciting, but so that we can have a discussion about it afterwards. And while you guys are watching this video, by all means, find anything wrong or flawed or that could be improved that you can. After the video, we'll talk about it. And if you find something wrong with the argument, make that known. But if you find anything else wrong, like if you think the music is too loud, or if you find a typo or anything like that, by all means, you guys have just as much a stake in this as I do, as far as I'm concerned. So keep an eye out. Enjoy it, by all means. But any criticisms or questions that you have about it, after the video, we can talk it out. Michael again, who's filling me in on this Area 51 thing. Michael says, it's the Area 51 raid joke, LOL, and it was worth hearing you say that, LOL. Well, thank you, Michael. Or should I say, you're welcome, Michael. I still don't know if it was worth what you paid, but as long as we're both happy, and we are. Area 51 raid. Here's a question from Universal Angel, who asks, you once said Oprah had wealth privilege compared to you. No, I didn't. I know I didn't. I don't address myself during the videos. Unless I said that. I don't remember ever saying that. Okay, Universal Angel asks, or says, you once said Oprah had wealth privilege compared to you, and privilege is an unlearned advantage? I think you meant to say unearned advantage. Did Oprah not earn her wealth? I'm sorry, Universal Angel. I have to insist that argument was not made on this channel. Wealth is not always earned. Some people inherit wealth, but everybody else works for it. So, and to your question, did Oprah not earn her wealth? She most certainly did. I hope I never made that argument, because that's a dumb argument. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that. You said that privilege is an unearned. No, yeah, Universal Angel is referring to a video on this channel about privilege. And in that video, the theory of privilege is presented as an unearned advantage that is invisible. And there were many privileges that were addressed in that video, and one of them was wealth privilege. In that video, wealth privilege, the concept of wealth privilege was questioned precisely on these grounds, the grounds that Universal Angel just mentioned here in the chat. It was questioned because wealth can sometimes be earned. Wealth often is earned. And Oprah Winfrey is a terrific example. So in that video, basically the concept of wealth privilege was questioned because if a privilege is an unearned advantage and wealth can be earned, then it doesn't necessarily qualify as a privilege if you earned it. I hope there wasn't any sort of misunderstanding between Universal Angel and that particular video, and I hope that cleared it up. Nevertheless, we're here to premiere, to show for the first time the latest video, which is about an analogy, a comparison between pools and guns, and it relates to the gun control debate. Here's a quick comment here from King Wilson, who says, I want to join the channel, but for economic reasons, I handle all transactions through Apple, and the YouTube app has not added the features. Sad King. Frowny face for King Wilson. Well, King Wilson, don't sweat it, man. Every time you show up in these live streams, you always throw a couple of bucks in, and we're all grateful for that. We're all grateful for your presence, Your Majesty. James says, Logan Tinky says, notice me. Okay, Logan, you can thank James for that. I have noticed you. All right, guys, without further ado, there's one more question from just some geeky guy who says, or who asks, what do they have in common? I missed the joke. No, there is no joke. Just some geeky guy. You're about to have a look at the latest video, which analyzes a comparison, or an analogy rather, that's made between swimming pools and guns. And this is an analogy that often pops up in the gun control debate. The name of this video is What Do Guns and Pools Have in Common? And if you've tuned into this live stream, as you have, you're about to get a look at it right now. Now, the first thing, what I'm going to do first, just to make sure everything is working, I'm going to play a few seconds of the video, and then I'm going to come back just to make sure that the audio is working. I know it's kind of tedious and annoying, but I just want to be on the safe side, make sure that everything's working right. So, here it is. Here's the first few seconds of this video, and I'll come back and ask you if the audio is working, if you could hear it. If you have a swimming pool in your backyard... Okay, now, I'm gonna if you're in the chat, just let me know if you could hear that or not. God, I hope you can. And don't joke around saying it's not working, because it's not funny. I say that as I'm laughing. Kyle says the audio is working. Mr. Trident says it's working. Working, yes, hear it. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It's working. All right, guys, great. Here is the latest video entitled, What do guns and pools have in common? And after the video, I hope you guys enjoy it, but if you find anything wrong with it, whether you find something wrong with the argument itself or the production, audio levels are wacky, something was misspelled, by all means, after the video, I'll come back and we can discuss it. See you on the other side, everybody. If you have a swimming pool in your backyard, the chances of you drowning in your backyard are higher than if you didn't. Makes sense, doesn't it? The more backyards that have swimming pools, the more people are going to drown in their backyard every year. This is more than just an observation. It's an analogy, and it's an analogy that's sometimes used in the gun control debate. The analogy is that, much like swimming pools, if you have a firearm, the chances of you or someone in your home being shot are increased. Similarly, the more people who own a firearm, the more people are going to be shot every year as a result. It seems like a fair analogy. The question is, which side of the gun control debate would benefit from this analogy? Would it be the side that's pro-gun control, or would it be the side that's anti-gun control?
Yeah, actually, you increase your chances of getting shot by 80% the second you get a gun in the house. Really?
Here's an example of this analogy being used by Bill Burr in defense of purchasing a gun.
What, because I'm going to load it and shower with it like, I know it's dangerous. You get a pool in your backyard, you immediately increase your odds of drowning in your backyard, right? You couldn't do that before, now you step on a rake, in you go.
Now, what was the argument that Bill Burr was making using this analogy? His argument was that while you are creating a risk if you bring a gun into your home, there are lots of other risks that we run when we make something a part of our home. Just because something can be dangerous doesn't mean you cannot or should not have it. So it seems like this comparison of pools and guns supports the anti-gun control side of this debate. Let's have a look then at this argument in action when used by an anti-gun control advocate, Philip Van Cleve, while being interviewed by John Oliver on The Daily Show.
Well, let me put it to you this way. There are more drownings in backyards where they have pools. If they don't have a pool, there are no drownings in backyards, okay? So the U.S. has a very high number of guns. Therefore, there's going to be more chances for somebody to be killed with a gun.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's my point.
What the hell just happened? Here we thought that this analogy supports the anti-gun control position, but we just watched John Oliver use it to support the pro-gun control position. How does that figure? Well, it's important to remember that an analogy itself is not an argument. It's just an observation. The observation being that these two things can kill you. But the argument, well, at least the anti-gun control argument, is that we do not and we should not prohibit everything that can kill you. That's the argument, and Philip Van Cleve didn't actually make that argument. All he did was present the analogy. If Van Cleve had followed up that analogy by, let's say, asking why don't we ban swimming pools, or stating that people will still be killed, just not with a gun, then Oliver would have actually had something to answer to. But because he didn't, Oliver simply agreed with the fact that guns and pools are both dangerous.
There are more drownings in backyards where they have pools. The U.S. has a very high number of guns. Therefore, there is going to be more chances for somebody to be killed with a gun.
Right.
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 Of course, none of this is to say that these are perfect arguments. There are still a couple of ways for the pro-gun control side to counter them. One way would be to compare the number of annual gun deaths to the number of annual drownings. Another way would be to question the analogy outright. Can you murder somebody with a pool, commit armed robbery with a pool, how many drownings are accidental, how many shootings are not, etc. The lesson to be learned here is that if you don't actually present your line of reasoning, an analogy can be used to support either side of a debate. Which is kind of funny, isn't it? You wouldn't think that was possible, but apparently it is. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. There you are. That was the latest video. And as I mentioned before, it discusses or analyzes an analogy in the gun control debate between guns and pools. It's kind of a fun little video, even though it does address the gun control debate. Sorry that the screen went blank there for a few minutes after that. That wasn't intended. But I hope you guys all enjoyed that. And once again, thank you for tuning in to watch it. And now, we'll turn our eyes to the chat. And I'm going to try to address as many comments as I can. As many good questions and good rebuttals, if there are any, or supporting arguments as I can. Just so you know, if I'm going to try to keep my eye on as many good questions and arguments as I can, but if anybody says something in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. That only seems fair. So far, the first criticism that's being said is that it was too short. Hey, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. It was a short video. It was, but hey, it's giving us more time to talk about it. So let's discuss it. I know, it was short. Let's see here. Someone with a name I can't pronounce says, a good video, though I wish it were longer. Concise points hardly filled my need for entertainment. Well, I'm very sorry about that. But I'm sure you would all agree it's better than, well, what else? Something even shorter? Or nothing at all. Drake says I'm throwing shade? And somebody says they like my voice. Well, thank you. I like your typing. All right, guys, let's talk about it. Let's see what you think. Here's a comment from, or a question from Aiden, who asks, are you pro or anti-gun control? Hi from London. Well, hello to London. Let's stay focused on the video itself. Personal questions are not necessary. At least I would like them not to be necessary. If we could just stay focused on the argument or the observations made in the video. But to give you not to dodge your question. Personally, I don't know. I have a problem, and my problem is that I can see the merits of both sides of the debate. Of course, any sort of law that might result in the well-being of more people, as a matter of principle, I'm in favor of. At the same time, I don't think every single proposed piece of legislation would fix the problem. But I guess that goes for every issue, right? Not every proposed solution to any problem would work. Let's see here. James says something in quotes. James, you started your comment with a quotation mark, but you didn't end your comment with one, so I don't know if this is a quote or not. Nevertheless, James, or somebody else he's quoting, says, "You know, statistics show that having a ladder in the house is more dangerous than a loaded gun. That's why I own handguns 10, in case the maniac tries to sneak in with the ladder." Okay. Okay. The next comment comes from King... Oh, who else? King Wilson. All hail King of the Plebs. He says, the king says, if he gets his point across in fewer sentences, then who cares? I award him for being a... Oh, I see. Yes, King Wilson is making an argument, or rather an argument against people who wish the video was longer. All hail the king. Thanks, King Wilson. The next, guys, if it makes anyone any happier, there was a video produced for this channel a few weeks ago called "When Should You Leave an Interview?" It was unfortunately blocked by Channel 4 News on a copyright ground, but that claim is about to expire in a week. And that's about a 19-20 minute long video, so that's coming up soon. And the next video should be a 10 or 15 minute long one as well. Every now and then, a short video is produced for this channel. And nobody has to be happy about it, but at least they don't take as much time to produce. It's just something that happens. Here's a comment from just some geeky guy again. Says the analogy is stupid. Yes, that point was made in the video. By the way, for anybody just tuning in, earlier in this stream, the latest video for this channel was premiered. For the first time. It's not on the channel. It hasn't been published. So if you're just tuning in and you're able to, you can go back in the stream to watch it and then catch up with us live and join the discussion. It was mentioned in the video that this particular analogy of comparing firearms and swimming pools, the point was made in the video that analogy might not be sound. It might not be a reasonable analogy in the first place. It could be the shortest and sweetest way to put it is that it could be apples and oranges. There are some similarities between a pool and a gun. They can both kill you, but they do have a lot of differences. There are a lot of differences between guns and pools as well. So the analogy itself might be flawed, or as just some geeky guy would say, stupid. So just some geeky guy says in the chat, the analogy is stupid. Over 2.3 million out of 8 million Swiss citizens own guns, and they rarely have any gun deaths. Say, I didn't know that. 2.3 out of 8 million Swiss citizens have guns, and they rarely, in all caps, rarely have any gun deaths. Well, just some geeky guy, not that I don't believe you, but if you had mentioned the number of gun deaths, annual gun deaths, that would help, or that would be more valuable than just saying rarely. But nevertheless, thanks for the remark. I didn't know that about Switzerland. Here is a comment from Gene. Gene says, the end seems a little rushed, kind of randomly cut. Yeah, you're right, Gene. That's because at that point in the video, the bulletin board with the credits would have slid in, but that hasn't been put together yet. So that's why the video just abruptly ended. Actually, when the video is published, there's going to be a little bit at the end where I basically say, so what do you think? Can you think of any other analogies that could be used to support both sides? So the video that's published, Gene, is not going to end. It's not going to end that abruptly. It did. The one you just saw is a rough rendering. It'll be touched up. Let's see. Next up, we have Michael. And Michael says, it seemed to me that you more or less just explained the argument, but didn't really counter it in any way. Well, that's fair enough, Michael. A lot of nowadays, this might not have been true in the recent past, but videos that have been produced for this channel recently, let's say this year, have been less so made to necessarily challenge an argument head on and take a side against it. Videos that have been produced for this channel lately have been more so designed to sort of present an argument, present a counter argument, but not necessarily endorse one or the other, if that makes sense. I mean, I get the goal is neutrality, or at least more neutrality, because I didn't want to make videos anymore that just sort of stood on firm ground against an argument. I thought it seemed to me that a video that sort of just presented a counter argument but didn't necessarily advocate or endorse it would be better. And so there were multiple counter arguments in that video, Michael, and some of them were on one side and some were on the other. I hope it didn't take anything away from the experience. I hope you were still able to enjoy it. Next up is J.E. And J.E. says, guns are a constitutional right. Nobody has a right to a pool. Checkmate. Emotes to camera. Okay. Well, yeah, J.E., that is one difference between guns and pools. It's not what they have in common. That's a difference between guns and pools. We don't have a right to pools. King Wilson says, King Wilson is hyped for the when should you leave it a interview video, not debate. When should you leave an interview video? Yeah, for those who don't know, a few weeks ago, a video was uploaded to this channel called "When Should You Leave an Interview?" And in it there was footage from Channel 4 News. They claimed the video, blocking it worldwide, and their claim was disputed. And if they didn't do anything in 30 days, the claim would expire. Well, that was 22 days ago, and there's 8 days left. So hopefully they continue doing nothing about it, and the claim expires, and you guys can see it. For those wondering, that video features Ben Shapiro's BBC interview. So if you want to see another video that commentates on that, then stay tuned and keep an eye out for it. Hey, King Wilson, I'm stoked for it to be published. Here is this next one comes from Heel Team 6, who says, Heel Team 6 says, there are an estimated 300,000 plus defensive uses of firearms per year in the United States, according to the CDC and the FBI report conducted under the Obama administration. Heel Team 6 goes on to ask, are there any defensive uses of pools? Very good, Heel Team 6. There's another difference. Again, not something that guns and pools have in common. Here's another difference between guns and pools. For those who are just tuning in, earlier in this stream, a new video relating to the gun control debate was premiered for the first time. So if you missed it and you're able to, you can go back and watch it, and then you can catch up with this stream and live and discuss it. If you comment in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Yeah, that is, Heel Team 6, that difference, the fact that a gun can be used for self-defense and a swimming pool cannot, as far as I know, that is a good example as to why the analogy, comparing pools and guns, might not be a good analogy. It's a good enough analogy. The reason why guns and pools are compared in the first place is basically just to make the case from the anti-gun control position that while guns are dangerous and they can kill you, there are a lot of other things that can kill you, like pools, like automobiles, like eating. Eating solid food is a choking hazard. So that's why guns and pools are compared. But it's not a perfect comparison. Nothing is a perfect comparison. And the fact that a gun can be used for self-defense and a pool cannot is one notable distinction between the two. And that might render the analogy unreasonable. Perhaps, arguably. Let's say that. Let's say arguably. Hey, Zeke. How are you? Next up, we have from Gene again, commenting again, saying thanks. It's my first love. Excuse me, it's my first live. Love your videos. I misread that. Thanks, Gene. Thanks for tuning into the stream for the first time. I hope you're enjoying this. Streams don't happen very often on this channel, and there haven't been so many in the channel's entire life. So I imagine most subscribers have not tuned into a live stream. But I'm glad you could join, Gene. Thanks for stopping by. And thank you for the compliment. Let's see. Next, we have Who's next? I'm sorry, I got lost here. Next up is Cricket Lenny. And Cricket Lenny says, both items are not dangerous in isolation and must have interaction to become dangerous. Cricket Lenny goes on to say, a pool won't try to drown you and a gun won't shoot itself, etc. There you go. There's another distinction between a pool and a gun, and that, once again, to some, arguably would render the analogy comparing guns and pools ineffective or unreasonable. Again, the reason why guns and pools are compared, but the reason why there's an analogy comparing them is to make the case that they're both dangerous. But here, actually, I'm sorry, Cricket Lenny was presenting a similarity between guns and pools. That neither one of them can injure you unless you use it. And that's a fair point. That's a good observation. And I hadn't thought of that. You see, this is why I love doing these live streams here. This is why I like premiering new videos on here and talking about it afterwards, because I can think and think and think all I want, but there'll always be something that I can't think about. For those of you just tuning into this stream, a brand new video was just streamed live earlier in this stream. If you missed it, you can go on, if you're able to, you can go back and watch it. It's about the gun control debate. It relates to the gun control debate. And then once you've watched it, you can catch up with us live and join in on the discussion. On the discussion. It's a tough thing to say fast. Let's see here. And here we have Just Some Geeky Guy again. Again, for those who were just tuned in, Just Some Geeky Guy commented earlier in this stream about the gun death rate in Switzerland. Apparently, according to Just Some Geeky Guy, out of 8 million Swiss citizens, 2.3 million own guns, and there are rarely any gun deaths, according to him. Well, he's back in the chat, and he's here to say that he says, I looked up Switzerland's gun death rate, and in 2018 alone, they only had a rate of 0.15 murders per 100,000 residents. That's a pretty low gun death rate. Well, thank you, Just Some Geeky Guy. I mentioned that you hadn't given any figures, so you went and looked for them, and you came back in the chat to share them. Thank you, Just Some Geeky Guy. Everybody else, give him a thanks. He's just given us some information, and nobody can have too much of that. I never knew that about Switzerland. Zeke, Zeik 101. Thanks for the 99 cents, pal. And Jason Rushing, which it looks like you are in your profile picture. Thanks for stopping by the stream. Jeff Chang says, guns are connected to the right to life, as one cannot have this right without the right to effective self-defense. Jeff goes on to say, pools are mainly for recreation. Now that would be one of quite a few fundamental differences between a gun and a pool. What their the value of them. As we mentioned already, the comparison, the reason why guns and pools are compared is because they're both dangerous and they can both result in an untimely death if not used responsibly. But as far as their value goes, as far as their worth as something that you use, Jeff Chang is making the argument, or rather, it's really an observation, but I guess qualifies as an argument as well. The guns are connected to the right to life. As he argues, this right cannot exist without effective self-defense. And pools are just for recreation. Yes, if there is a way to defend liberty with a swimming pool, I'm unaware of it. I don't want to be the one to say it's not possible and find out it is. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware of any way to defend liberty and the pursuit of happiness with a darn pool. Thanks for the comment, Jeff. Borkosite? I don't really care if I didn't pronounce that correctly. That looks like a made-up word. Borkosite says, both lose their appeal when peed on or in. Good point, Borkosite. Why did I read that? All right, like I said, anybody who comments in the super chat is guaranteed a reply. By the way, if this has happened before, if I miss a comment in the super chat, could you guys let me know kindly? Because I don't want that to happen. And sometimes it does happen. I am less than perfect. To anyone, let's see, we've got about 600 people here. For anyone who's just tuning in, earlier in this stream, early in the stream, a brand new video was premiered. It hasn't been published, so this stream is the only place you can see it. And it relates to the gun control debate. It's called What Do Guns and Pools Have in Common? So if you're just tuning in and you missed it, go on back and watch it, and then you can join the discussion. If you comment in the chat, in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Arbitrary Renaissance is asking if they've missed any prominent discussion. Kinda. Yeah. I mean, ever since the video was played, we've had a pretty productive conversation all the way. In my humble opinion. Let's see here. Next up, we have King Wilson again, who says, someone in the chat said, let's legalize heroin. It can't hurt you if you don't use it. There are so many ways to bash this analogy. Okay, King Will. Well, first of all, King Wilson, thank you for promoting that comment. Because you didn't mention the name of the person who said it, so I can't address them. But apparently somebody in the chat said, let's legalize heroin. It can't hurt you if you don't use it. And I have to presume that person was responding to an argument that was made earlier in the stream. Somebody pointed out earlier a similarity between guns and pools. Neither of them can hurt you if you don't use them. You can't drown in a pool if you don't get in a pool. You can't shoot anybody if you don't use a gun. Somebody else who has a gun can shoot you, of course. So, whoops. But anyway, apparently somebody challenged that argument very, very humorously by saying, let's legalize heroin. It can't hurt you if you don't use it. Well, point taken. Of course, there's an irrelevant argument to be made in response to that. A libertarian argument saying that all drugs should be legalized because freedom, but that's beside the point that's being made. Whoever said let's legalize heroin, it can't hurt you, was obviously responding to someone who argued earlier in the chat that guns cannot hurt you if you don't use it. That was a fairly witty counter argument, if I do say so myself. And King Wilson, I thank you for promoting it. All hail the king. All hail King of the Plebs. Just some geeky guy says, guys, please. You're making me blush. I've been keeping an eye on the super chat. I'm assuming that there were people heaping praise upon just some geeky guy in what we call the plebeian chat. And again, for those of you who are aware of the inside joke, King Wilson, King of the Plebs, you already know what that's all about. Next up, we have... who's next? Let's see here. Heal Team 6 again says, proper pools and guns both have a high $ barrier to entry. Many accidental deaths with pools and firearms are from unattended children or involve drugs and alcohol. Heal Team 6 goes on to say both are used in common sports. Very good, Heal Team 6. 3 notable similarities between guns and pools. I'm not sure if any of them relate to the analogy that was presented in the video. I don't think they do. But those are 3 interesting, notable similarities between guns and pools. They cost a lot to purchase. A lot of deaths that result from guns and pools, accidental ones, are a result of unattended children. That's a very good point, a tragic point, but true nonetheless. And they're both used commonly in sports. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. They certainly are. It's obvious. And I hadn't considered it. So thank you, Hill Team 6. Jason says, the Ninth Amendment. This is Jason Fanning says, the Ninth Amendment is about the enumeration rights. Jason goes on to say, you can argue that the enumerated rights, such as a right to privacy, can be used to protect you from being spied on in a pool. The Bill of Rights could arguably protect both. Somebody mentioned earlier that we don't have a constitutional right to swimming pools, which is true. I wonder, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is correct or not, but I wonder if Jason was replying to that. It's possible that he wasn't, but nevertheless, the Ninth This is kind of a funny comment. The Ninth Amendment is about the enumeration rights. So you could argue that the enumerated rights, such as the right to privacy, can be used to protect you from being spied on in a pool. The Bill of Rights could arguably protect both. Yeah, Jason, you must have been replying to that argument that was made earlier in the stream. For those of you just tuning in, for those of you who have been participating in this stream from the beginning, you must be getting annoyed with me repeating this, but I just have to. For anyone who's just tuned in to this stream or recently tuned in, a new video was premiered in this stream. And if you missed it, and you're able to, go on back and watch it and enjoy it, hopefully, and then come back to us live and join in on the discussion. Let us know what you think about it. If you comment in the live, if you comment in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Zeke 101 says, or asks, guns a bigger force multiplier than a pool, no? Huh? Guns a bigger force multiplier than a pool? No. No? What? Yeah, right. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I mean, that question was worth $1.99, I would say, but the English was a little broken. I'm not quite sure what point was being made there. But hey, Zeke, thank you for tuning in for this. Thank you for tuning into this stream and for dropping just a little bit less than $2. I'm really sorry if I ever read a comment by you guys or a question and I don't quite understand what you're trying to say. I do apologize because I would like to have something constructive to say to everything, if I can help it, and obviously sometimes I can't. Let's see here. James says. James is promoting a comment from the from the plebeian chat. James says that it is Colt said both guns and pools are useless if you don't load them. If you don't load them? Or let me guess, by loading a pool, does that mean filling it up with water? Yeah, that's a good point. If you don't put bullets in a gun and you don't put water in a pool, then they're useless. And as well, they can't kill you. See, that's the analogy of that's used in the gun control debate, that guns and pools can both kill you. So if we're going to get so uppity about gun control, why don't we discuss pool control or anything that can hurt you control for that matter? But yeah, obviously, if you don't put bullets in the gun or water in the pool, they can't kill you. Fair enough observation from you, James. And next we have the Great Indoors, 1979, who says, the Great Indoors, 1979, is about to tell us one similarity between guns and pools. He says, both make me moist. Well said, the Great Indoors, 1979. They both make him moist. You got that, everybody? Good. Here we are having a reasonable, intelligent discussion. Universal Angel again says, criminalize nothing that can hurt. Heroin and pools. Huh? Universal Angel said, criminalize anything. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't read that the way I was supposed to. The way Universal Angel wrote this, he said, criminalize, capital N, capital E, thing. I read that as nothing. I was supposed to read it as anything. Criminalize anything that can hurt. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that Universal Angel was saying that in jest. Because we can't criminalize everything that can possibly hurt us. Virtually everything can potentially hurt us. I got a splinter yesterday. Are we going to criminalize pieces of wood? Come on. Yeah, so again, I think Universal Angel was just kidding around. And it was a good kid if it was. Well, here we have a remark from the Parkinator, who says pools need water and guns don't. There you go. Wait, actually, Parkinator 56. What about water guns? You say pools need water and guns don't. I beg to differ. Water guns do. But otherwise, yeah, you're right, they don't. For those of you who are just tuning in, there's a new video. If you go to the beginning of this live stream, you can watch a new video that was just premiered on this channel that we're talking about now, which analyzes an analogy that compares swimming pools and firearms in the context of the gun control debate. And that's what we're discussing. Let's see here. James. James. James again. James is following up on what Is Cold mentioned earlier. Is Cold said he meant loading the pool with bullets. Yeah. Okay, good point, James. Or, excuse me, good point, Is Cold. Yeah, that's one difference between a gun and a pool. Putting bullets in a swimming pool is not going to fire them. Not that I'm not enjoying these sorts of comments. You can't tell. I am smiling, but can we have slightly more intelligent responses to the video at hand? I know I brought this on myself by titling the video, "What do guns and pools have in common?" But frankly, I genuinely thought it was interesting that an analogy that's presented without an argument can be used to support both sides of a debate. Of course, that was the case that was made in the video. In the video, it was what's the word? It was demonstrated that the analogy of guns and pools both being dangerous can be used to support either side of the gun control debate if you don't make an argument. And I thought that was very interesting. And I wonder, excuse me, I wonder what your thoughts are about that. For anybody just tuning in, there was a new video that was made. You can go, if you go to the beginning of the stream, you can watch it, and then join us live again and talk about it. Anybody who comments in the super chat is guaranteed a reply. Now, here's a comment from CIGOL, I don't know how to say that, who asks, would you agree that the age ranges that die in pools versus the age ranges that die by guns are different, even if they have similar death rates? I genuinely don't know. I don't know what percentage of gun deaths are children and what percentage of drownings are children as well. So I don't know. And therefore I can't agree or disagree. It's a good question, though, because I would be curious to know. But I don't. And I'm not just going to assume without any information. Deborah says, be a pool or be a fool. Let's see here. Big Red Moon asks, do you have any other examples of analogies that could support both sides of an argument? No, I don't, Big Red Moon. And it's kind of annoying me because the fact that I found one made me want to search for or think of others. And I can't think of any. Which is annoying me because I feel like if I just put a little more effort into it, I could. I found it very interesting that the analogy of guns and pools, you know, both guns, both firearms and swimming pools can result in death if they're used irresponsibly. The fact that that analogy could be used to support both sides of the gun control debate, I thought was interesting. If you're on the anti-gun control side, you could use that analogy to support the argument. We don't ban everything or try to ban everything that's harmful, so why should we ban guns? And on the pro-gun control side, you could use that to support the case that we need gun control because, naturally, the more of something dangerous there is, the more people are going to die, the more of it that there is. And so that's an example of an analogy that can be used to support both sides of a debate, but I can't think of any other ones myself. And it's annoying because I think I could if I just tried a little harder. If anybody else can, if anybody else can, by all means, let it be known. Can you think of any other analogies? In this latest video, it was demonstrated how one analogy can be used to support both sides of a debate. Can you think of any other analogies that could support both sides? Packed 1558 gave a buck and said nothing. Thanks for stopping by, Packed 1558. That is your real name. King Wilson again. All hail the king. King Wilson says, the analogy is simple and supports both sides. It's classic meme material. You should be, King Wilson goes on to say, you should be expecting the smart aleck comments. Winky face. Yeah, okay, King Wilson. I'm not going to argue with that. Good point. The Parkinator says guns aren't closed. Good point. Guns can't be closed. They can be locked, though. And they can be unloaded. I'm not arguing with you, Parkinator. It's a good enough observation. Hey, Alec Feather, thanks for stopping by. You're in a lot of these streams. I'm glad to see you turned up in this one as well. Let's see. The Living in Furnace says an angry person can kill easier with a gun than with a pool. Can they? I don't know. It depends how angry they are. Hey, if you're an angry person and you want to murder somebody and you don't have a gun but you're in a pool, you'll work with what you've got, won't you? Somebody just commented in the super chat and then they retracted their comment. That's a shame. I wonder if that gives them a refund. J.E. again. Hello, J.E. J.E. says both have to be cleaned, disassembled in some way, and maintained regularly, or become useless by poor maintenance. Yep, that's a good point. Guns and pools both have to be maintained, or they wear out. I don't have much to add. The Great Indoors says, are the banning of pools really that high up on the list of a tyrannical government in comparison to ownership of guns? Me thinks not. Yep. The Great Indoors, if I'm not mistaken, the Great Indoors is alluding to a common argument against gun control, which is that, the purpose of having the right to bear arms, the purpose of the Second Amendment. This is obviously an American argument. The purpose of the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights is to keep the government from becoming tyrannical, because if, the argument goes, if all citizens, or at least a lot of citizens, are armed, then the government would not dare take the rights of the citizens away, because they would rightly fear a revolution. So the Great Indoors, 1979, is just commenting here, saying that the banning pools is not high on the list of tyrannical governments, and banning guns certainly would be. And that seems like a fair enough argument. The idea is that a government that, in theory at least, a government that wants to be tyrannical, who wants to take the rights away of citizens, would do well by that agenda by stripping the citizens of their firearms. And, banning pools is not going to make that any easier. Now, that's the argument. How impressed you are with that argument is a matter of your own opinion. Some might think that's a very convincing argument, but I have heard a few counter-arguments to that, and one of which is that the United States government, if it really wanted to trample on rights, well, A, it has to some extent, and B, it could because the U.S. Army is so darn mighty. Ordinary citizens may have certain firearms, but they don't have bazookas or tanks or battleships or anything like that. Airplanes and things of that such. Nevertheless, you see why the gun control debate is such a lively debate. It's not for nothing. There are strong arguments on both sides. For those of you who are, I'm sorry to repeat this again, but I just feel it's necessary. For those of you who have just or recently tuned into this stream, a brand new video has been completed and was streamed live in this stream early on. So if you'd like to see it, it hasn't been published yet. So if you'd like to see it, you can go back to the beginning of this stream and watch it, and then join us live to participate in the discussion. Somebody named A-M-E, do you pronounce that Amy? Amy in the super chat. Hi, Amy. Thanks for stopping by. James again says, cars kill people easier than guns. Banning dangerous. That's incomplete sentence. But I see your point, James. Cars can kill people easier than guns? Well, I don't know. We could dispute that if we really wanted to. It depends on the type of gun, no? Obviously, if you have a gun that only shoots one bullet, a car would be easier to kill people. But if you have a machine gun, you get my point. Anyway, thanks for the comment, James. Let's see here. We've been going now. This stream is about 55 minutes young. And the shortest, I wouldn't do a live stream that didn't last as long as an hour. So we'll go at least for an hour. and maybe we'll go another 10 or 15 minutes after that. We'll see. So far, there are still about 470 people in the stream now. Earlier, we had as many as 630, I think. Now we're up to 482. Like I said, we'll keep the discussion going for at least a little bit longer. I can tell. Looking at the chat. I can tell that there's a pretty good back and forth going on because most of the comments that I see in the plebeian chat here, a lot of them are people responding to other people. Now, I'm not able to read all of them, so I don't know how many of you guys are being respectful and constructive, but I hope at least most of you are. At the very least, I'm glad to see that a lot of you guys are engaging with each other, and, hopefully you're doing it in a way that's respectful and constructive. I'm just glad to see that there's a back and forth going on in the chat. Let's see here. The Parkinator is back again. The Parkinator is back with another difference between guns and pools. He says there are no assault pools. Good point, Parkinator. There are no assault pools. Another smart-ass distinction between firearms and swimming pools. And I thank you for that. I thank you because you made me laugh, and I always appreciate that. There are no assault pools. Let's see here. Voltig. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I hope that I am. I'll call you Volt. No, I'll call you Voltig. Hoping that that's correct. Voltig says, you can hide cars in pools? You can hide cars in guns. Pools are clearly way more dangerous. What? What the hell are you talking about? Well, Voltig, you did comment in the super chat, so, and I said it. You were guaranteed a reply if you would. So I'm a man of my word. You certainly can't hide a car in a friggin' gun. You're not gonna get an argument from me on that one. Here's a comment from Pact1558 who says, it's about the intention. He or she says it's about the intention. You buy a pool with the intention of swimming in it. You don't buy a gun with the intention of just hanging it in your house. Well, I mean, this is not a very good rebuttal. I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate. Some people do. Some people buy old antique guns without the intention of firing them. They purchase them because they're old and a valuable antique. But I would agree with you that most people who purchase a firearm are doing it for the intention of using it, God forbid. And I assume that most people who do purchase firearms would tack the God forbid part on the end. Most people who do buy a gun purchase it with the intention of using it in self-defense, ... God forbid. And obviously that's a difference between guns and swimming pools. So fair enough. John McDonald says, the anti-gun control argument uses the analogy to defend against a statistic. While the pro-gun control argument side you presented uses the analogy as their main point. I'm sorry, did I say pro-gun control argument? I didn't mean to. The pro-gun argument that was presented uses the analogy as their main point. That's right. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. I hope you... Well, obviously, you must have watched the video if you said that just now. Excuse me. Sorry, just had to have a drink. Yeah, good point, John. The anti-gun control... Wait, hang on a second. John, I think you made a mistake in your typing of this. You say anti-gun control argument, and then you say pro-gun argument. The anti-gun control argument and the pro-gun argument are the same side. The pro-gun side is the anti-gun control side. So I'm not sure. I don't want to misunderstand your comment. I don't think I did, but I might, because you accidentally described the same side of the debate. But if I understand you correctly, and I think I do, I understand your point, and I thank you for the $5. Thank you, John. Jarrett says, drownings insinuate that the death is an accident. That's right. Or, well, I don't know. Is this semantics? if somebody, let's say for instance, if somebody murders somebody in a pool, if they hold their head underwater until they die, did that person not drown because they were murdered? Again, this might be semantics. It most certainly is. But I'm presenting it as a question. Maybe somebody has the answer. Thanks to Parkinator. You're very welcome. Let's see now. Somebody said read the plebs. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I see your comment. Read the plebs. Yes, for those of you who are not in on the joke, there's a little inside joke on the live streams on this channel. It's a joke that goes back to last year. I or somebody else referred to the... I wasn't sure how to refer to the regular chat, the non-super chat, and I called it the pleb chat. And then King Wilson, who I hope is still in this stream, King Wilson was appointed King of the Plebs. And so for those of you who don't know that inside joke, now you're in on it. Now you're in on it. The pleb chat is basically the regular chat, the normal chat, the non-super chat, whatever you want to call it. The pleb chat, meaning you guys are all plebs. Have a nice day. Here's a comment from... Toxicon said they love my voice. Thank you, Toxicon, very much. Thank you. I don't know how much responsible I am for that, but thank you nonetheless. Auto S says, hey, counter argument. Big fan. Well, thank you, Auto. I'm a fan of you. I don't know. I just wanted to say that. Big fan. You can't... Auto goes on to say, you can't defend your home with your pool unless you're badass. Yeah, good point. Maybe John Wick could. Otto goes on to say, you can brandish a pool to discourage crime. Yep. I really don't have much to add, Otto. That's a pretty good point. That's a damn good point, actually. It's irrefutable. Well, Otto, to get back to what you said before about being a big fan, thanks, man. Thanks a lot. I'm glad that you were able to catch this live stream, and I'm glad that you commented in the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Thanks again for the compliment, Otto. King Wilson says, I am just watching and observing. All right. King Wilson is still here. He has not left. All hail the king. King of the plebs. Black Matt says, laws should be specific enough to prevent certain actions and broad enough to account for different variations of an action. Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Black Matt goes on to say, also, as the action and its variables change, the laws should change with them. Well, you know, Black Matt, you made a pretty good point. You made a pretty darn good point just now, and I'd like to reply to everything that. Whenever I read somebody's comment in the chat, I like to have something to say in response. But every now and then, somebody will say something, and they'll just make a good point. And I don't really have anything to say. I don't really have anything remarkable to say in response. It's just sort of a good point, and I read it live in the stream, so now you've heard it, and I appreciate it. That's just a good argument. There's a pretty good observation there. Black Matt again says the Second Amendment hasn't been updated, and in our context, it's too broad. Black Matt goes on to say we should update the laws. Well, I think I do have something to say in response to you now, Black Matt. It's nothing personal. This is just a counter-argument that I'm aware of, and so I'll present it to you. I do like your observation, or I do like your argument that laws should... what did you say earlier, Black Matt? You said that laws should be specific enough to prevent certain actions and broad enough to account for different variations of an action. That's very well said. So Black Matt, addressing you directly, you've argued that the Second Amendment hasn't, or you've observed that the Second Amendment hasn't been updated, and you've argued that it's too broad. Well, I think it's fair to say that all laws should be revisited every so often, and if deemed appropriate, updated. However, and this is a common counter-argument that I'd like to present to you. I've heard this before. The Second Amendment is not is not just a law. It's not just that. The counter-argument goes that the Second Amendment is in the Bill of Rights. And as any American knows, or if as any American ought to know, hopefully every American knows this, it's impossible to remove an amendment from the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights can be amended insofar as adding new amendments, but there's no legal procedure in place to remove an amendment from the Bill of Rights. In other words, there's no way of removing the Second Amendment from the Bill of Rights. Of course, obviously, that doesn't mean that any and all gun control is unconstitutional, although some people would gladly disagree with that. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point, Black Matt. Not that you didn't make a good point. It's just that that's a rebuttal that you might, if you presented that to somebody who was on the other side of the gun control debate, they might say something like that in response. And they might say it a little more passionately than I just did. Panalytica offered a counter-argument to Black Matt, saying that that's an opinion. Times have changed, but the principles can still be relevant. Fair rebuttal. So it seems, yeah, times can change. Our society can change. Our values can change. But a certain principle arguably does not. I guess a terrific example of that would be the right to free expression or the right to privacy. No matter how much times have changed, in air quotes, no matter how much times have changed, those principles would, or hopefully always do, remain. Nevertheless, whether there are good rebuttals to what Black Matt said, I think he still made a decent argument. I mean, just because there are counter arguments to an argument doesn't mean that argument is bad. You can make a good argument and still know of a way to challenge it. But hey, that's just my opinion. Okay, let's see now. The stream has been going now for a little over an hour. We'll keep it going for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll take a few more questions or arguments in the chat. Here's Voltig, still don't know which way is the right way to pronounce that, who asks, do we count castle moats as pools? Good question. That seems like semantics as well. I would think not, but hey, if somebody knows of an argument as to why they are, I don't think I have the nerve to challenge them. Thanks for the comment, Voltig, however you pronounce your name. Saint Balor? Saint Balor? I'll call you Saint. Saint says, can't have more murders by pool than by gun because a pool requires a location. You can kill with a gun in a pool. Inherently, the comparison is unfair. Well, fair enough, Saint. I'll call you Saint. Good, fair enough point, Saint. For those of you who are just tuning into this stream, a brand new video was streamed earlier in this stream. It hasn't been published yet, so this is the only place you can see it for now. A new video was streamed earlier called What Do Guns and Pools Have in Common? And that video analyzed a common analogy, or an analogy that's commonly used in the gun control debate. The analogy being that guns are dangerous, but so are swimming pools. If we're not proposing swimming pool control, then why should we propose gun control? And one of the points that was made in that video is that the analogy seems fair enough to compare guns and pools on the basis that they're both dangerous, but it's not a perfect analogy. Of course, there is no such thing as a perfect analogy. And there are a few ways of questioning it. Saint Balor, however you pronounce that, Saint just presented a way of questioning that analogy. The fact that while you can drown, you can die in a pool, you can only do it in certain locations where there is a pool. Whereas a gun is portable. You can bring that anywhere you want and use it anywhere you want. And don't we know that? Russian Bob, as opposed to Russian bot, Russian Bob says, no matter how times have changed, we are still human. Russian Bob must be... I'm assuming Russian Bob is responding to Black Matt, an argument that Black Matt made earlier. There you have it, Black Matt. If you're still engaged in this stream, you have a couple of rebuttals to chew on, if you'd like to. Let's see, an hour and 10 minutes now. Let's take a few more comments, and then we'll call it a day or a night. We'll call it a Monday. I suppose if you're in the Eastern Hemisphere, it's already tomorrow, isn't it? The Parkinator notices that pools were invented earlier. And funny stir. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Somebody responded to that by saying puddles were first. Well, one more time. For anybody who is just now or recently tuned into this live stream, the purpose of this live stream was to show a brand new video, which focused on an analogy, a common analogy in the gun control debate. If you missed it and you're able to, go on back and watch it if you please, because it hasn't been published yet. Right now, we're going to discuss it for a few more minutes, and then we'll say goodbye. Rob, I'm gonna keep my eye on the chat and respond to as many good questions or comments as I can. If anybody comments in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Now, I noticed there was a good comment here. Joshua says, guns are not a matter of principle, but free speech is. Well, Joshua, some people would disagree with that. I forget who it was, but somebody just earlier in this very stream made an argument as to why guns are a matter of principle. The argument that person made was that the reason why we have the Second Amendment in the United States is because a body of citizens who are armed will deter the government from being tyrannical. And that's a very popular argument in the United States, and especially on the right wing. And so, Joshua, if you ever encounter that person, that's what they would say, and if they said it, I wonder what your response would be. Here's a comment who says, somebody said you can't carry a pool into a public space and start murdering people. Yep. Gene, someone named Gene says, it's tomorrow here. Gene, I'm assuming you are, or I'm not assuming, I'm certain that you're in the Eastern Hemisphere. Because it's no longer Monday on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Across the pond. Arbitrary Renaissance says, another example of an analogy used for both... Oh, great. An example. And another example of an analogy that could be used for both sides of a debate is the people seeds analogy. In the context of abortion. Give it a look if you haven't before. I don't know if I have before. Thank you, Arbitrary Renaissance. Thank you very much. And thanks for being a member of the channel. Mr. Trident says, off topic... Oh, all right. Off topic, Mr. Trident asks, how do you determine when to use an index card, sticky note, or a loose leaf paper to help you illustrate your argument in your mainline videos? Well, that's a good question, Mr. Trident. I don't put too much thought into it. I try to use the Post-it notes primarily. But as you can understand, you can't fit too many words on a Post-it note. So normally the Post-it note is not used, or the sticky note is not used for full sentences. If I need to spell out a full sentence, or even two sentences, then I'll use the index card, but basically just out of necessity, because I can't fit a full sentence on a Post-it note usually. The loose leaf paper, on the other hand, is typically used for definitions or for summaries. If ever I needed to put a full paragraph on the screen, which doesn't happen often, then I would use the loose leaf paper is ordinarily mostly used for definitions. The index card for full sentences, and the sticky note or the Post-it note is just for sometimes just for individual words, like in this video that was just played in this stream, or just for a few words. So there you go, Mr. Trident. I hope you appreciated that answer. That's a fun question to ask, because I don't normally talk about the production of the videos. Jack Flesner says, if you have a pool, you can probably swim. Okay. If you have a firearm, you probably have a license. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what point you were trying to make there. I assume you were trying to make one, but I don't know what it is. Otto again. Hey, Otto. Otto's going to play the devil's advocate here. Kids playing. This is what Otto says. Kids playing in pools is a positive, while kids playing with guns is a heart attack. Thanks for being a fan, winky face. Really, really, thanks for the vids. Well, Otto, you are welcome for the vids. It is my pleasure. You better believe that. It's my pleasure. Black Matt. Hey, Black Matt. What have you got to say? Black Matt says, as guns change from 1791 to 2019, so should our laws about guns, and the Second Amendment shouldn't prevent that. My opinion. Well, that was Black Matt. Thank you, Black Matt, for joining back in the super chat to provide that argument, which is a matter of opinion, but nevertheless, thank you for your perspective on this. There you go. For anyone on the other side of the debate, here's an argument, and let's not get hung up on the person who made it. Let's not get hung up on Black Matt in particular. This is an argument that I've heard made by many people, and it's fairly common. The reason why, this is the argument, the reason why gun laws should change from the way they were in, say, the 18th century is because the guns themselves have changed. Now, obviously, that's a valid observation that guns have changed. Back when the Constitution was first written, the firearm of choice were muskets. So it's obviously a valid observation that guns have changed. The argument is that the gun laws should change parallel to that. Now, how exactly they should change, that's a much more thorough discussion. But nevertheless, that's the argument that was made by Black Matt. And a tip of the hat to you, Black Matt, for acknowledging that it is a matter of opinion. Nevertheless, you've made an argument to defend that opinion, and we appreciate that, whether anyone agrees or not. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Just because an argument can be challenged doesn't mean it's a bad argument. You can make a good argument and still know of a rebuttal. It doesn't mean it's stupid or invalid or anything like that. King Wilson says, I feel like this was a good live stream. A lot of people in the pleb chat. All hail King Wilson, king of the plebs. I feel like King Wilson says, a lot of people in the pleb chat got to be heard, and there was not an abundance of super chats. What a stream. Hey, King Wilson, I not that I need to say it, but I'm always glad when you stop by, man. Always, always, always. You're very generous. All hail King Wilson, king of the plebs. SpongeBob, thanks for stopping by, man. Thanks for the buck. Voltaig says, honestly, are you more free with or without guns? Well, I'm not going to present my own personal opinion, but the argument is that if the citizens of a country have guns, if a population is armed, then the government is, at the very least, discouraged from trampling on the rights of their citizens. Now, that's the argument. That's the argument that was made by Thomas Jefferson. It's an argument that's made by a lot of guns rights advocates ever since. And basically, that's the argument. Now, can you challenge that argument? You can. You could challenge that argument by saying that the Patriot Act infringed on rights. The government has already infringed on rights. You could argue that the gun control that exists undermines the Second Amendment. You could argue that the U.S. military is so mighty to this point that principle is ineffective. But again, I'm not going to take any sides here. I'm just going to present the arguments because I feel that that's all that I really ought to do, and you guys can draw whatever conclusions that you would like. I hope I fulfill that role well enough in this stream, and I hope that everybody who tuned into this stream learned something, thought about something, and enjoyed yourself. I certainly have enjoyed myself. For those, if you're just tuning in, I'm very sorry to say that you missed this stream. The purpose of this stream was to show off a brand new video that was streamed earlier. If you like to see, there's a new video made for this channel called "What Do Guns and Pools Have in Common," and it hasn't been published yet. So if you'd like to see it and you're able to, go to the beginning of this live stream where it was streamed, and you can check it out. Unfortunately, you can't join the discussion live because the stream is concluding right now. But before I go, I just want to say what I always say at the end of streams. I thank you all. If you're subscribed, I thank you for subscribing. If you're a member, I thank you for joining. And if you're not, but you still join this live stream, I thank you for tuning in. I mean, I don't know how to put it any better than that. It has value to me, and I hope it has value to you. The purpose of these live streams and the purpose of the videos published on this channel is just to present good arguments. That's the goal. We don't always live up to it, but that's the purpose of all this. And so hopefully, I'm glad to see that has value for you. So if you tuned in, especially if you've commented in the super chat, I doubly thank you. But even if you're not subscribed, even if you're not a member, even if you didn't comment in the super chat, even if you didn't comment at all, I thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, just for stopping by and tuning in. The latest video that was streamed in this live stream will be published soon, most likely tomorrow, so keep an eye out for it. And I hope you guys stay well. Take care of yourselves and take care of the people around you. Thank you one more time for tuning in and for caring about making a good argument, whether it be in the gun control debate or in general. So, somebody says you're a lad. Well, thanks, pal. You're a lad too. All right, guys. Have a wonderful Monday to you, or a Tuesday if you're in the Eastern Hemisphere. And I hope you're all well. We'll see you in the next stream, hopefully. Take care of yourselves, guys. Bye for now.